Good evening and welcome. I'm Dan Camilleri.
And I'm Laura McKillop.
Thanks to Enduro High Energy Food for Working Dogs with Real Kangaroo Meat for bringing us our live Q&A today.
Tonight we are lucky enough to be speaking with Gary White from White's Kelpie Stud, who will be picking what he thinks is the best question from our live viewers, and they'll win a bag of Enduro Plus. Hi Gary, how are you going?
Very well, thank you. Bit nervous, good.
All good, mate. I will settle your nerves there, mate. Tell us a bit about yourself, your family, where you're from, what you do.
I'm married to Angie for over 30 years now. That's a bloody long time. It's been good. We've got three children. Three children.
That's a life sentence.
Sorry?
That's a life sentence, 30 years.
Yeah, no, it's been good. We've got three kids who've all flown the coop. So it's just Angie and I at home at the moment. I'm from Nyngan, New South Wales, which is sort of roughly about in the middle of New South Wales. Lived out here all my life. Sort of Dad's always been on the land. I was always on the land. Sort of Dad was managing properties. I sort of always had a love of dogs, and sort of I grew up around dogs and working on the land, and then I sort of worked on different places for a little while, and then about 20 something years ago I went stock contracting. And when I say stock contracting these days, I'm only working for about 2 or 3 different people all year round, and that's sort of the year gone, and just do a fair few schools around the place, overseas, around Australia, wherever. And that's about it, my story.
Did you ever, you said growing up with your dad, always had dogs around. Was there ever an option not to like dogs?
No, because, well, I always loved them for a start, but where I grew up at, it was very, very remote for a long time, and there was no such things as TV or whatever. You listen to the radio sometimes, but my brother and I, my sister and that, we were outdoor kids, and from the time it was daylight or whatever, when you got up, you're outside the whole time, and the only time you come back inside was to get a drink or something to eat. And I got to even think I even knew what a TV was before I was 12-year-old. So we absolutely, well, I used to absolutely love the pups, and I used to spend a lot of my times down playing with the pups, and I used to love going around with Dad. Like, I think, if you know what the term is, I was his tar boy when in those days, he'd go out in the paddock, and when the fly was getting into the sheep, he'd send his dogs around and just hold the sheep up in the middle of the paddock somewhere with 3 or 4 dogs, and he'd race in and grab one. Could it be fly blowing, and I'd have to run over the dip when he caught it. And that was some of my earliest childhood memories. And shearing time, whatever, I just love being down at the shearing shed or in the sheep yards or cattle yards, whatever. As I grew up going to school, I seemed to miss the bus a few times when it was shearing time or when there was any cattle work on. I just absolutely loved it. And like I always had a dog of my own, and even from when I was tiny, I had a dog of my own that I'd go down the yards with and try to work it and whatever. Not very successfully, but anyway, I thought it was mine. But anything that was really good that I picked, sort of Dad ended up sort of, if it was good enough to trial, he'd take it and he'd put it on the trial ground, let me work it. So anyway, it was good.
How many did you try to hold back and tell them they're no good so you could keep them?
Oh, yeah, no, not too many. Like I say, when I was younger, after about 10 years old, I converted to horses. I loved riding horses and jumping and whatever. And until I don't know, about 24 years of old or something, I had a bit of an accident off a horse jumping, and was in hospital for a fair while and didn't work for a year and that. And then during that time, I was being quite successful, but a few of my friends that are very successful eventing riders, a bloke called Philip Dutton he just competed in his 7th straight Olympics, and he grew up. We were best friends and whatever. And in that time when I was in hospital and that, bloke called Matty Ryan also, he moved over to England. Philip moved to America over at Pennsylvania. And when I came back, I rode horses for a while, but I sold them a couple of good horses and then started on young ones. But then I started weaning myself off the horses and started trialing. And I sort of, it just suited so much better because I was always working on the land. So my dogs were part of my life anyway. And with the horses, I was finding I was having to work 2 horses before work, 2 horses after work, and it was becoming a chore. I always still loved competing and going away, but the grind during the week, it was becoming a job, not something that I got a lot of pleasure out of in the end. So, and anyone who's been to any of my schools, I always say that the dogs are always, never, ever going to be a chore to me. So if I want to train them, I'll go and train them. But, there's no pressure on working them all week most of the time. So if I don't want to train them to win a blue ribbon, it doesn't worry me. I'm sort of not... I love to win the blue ribbon, but it's not going to get me out there training them 5 days a week or even 1 day a week. On the weekend, yes, but not during the week.
Happy if you want to train yours to win red ribbons and a couple of mine to win blues, mate. That's all right.
Yeah, no, I've got plenty of reds and whites and whatever other colours too, mate. But it's all fun.
Not about the ribbon either, is it, mate? It's just about getting out there and having a crack, right?
Yeah, no, it's just sort of meeting up with like-minded people. And like I say, we all go to the trial sort of hoping we can win or do really well and our dogs work well. And I personally want to go there and not let my dog down because in my earlier days, I lost a couple of big trials, nationals, because of mistakes I made. It wasn't the dog did, it was me. So I go to a trial now and sort of try to not let my dog down so much. And to me, trialing, like I say, you want to go there and win or whatever, but it's a night around the campfires. I call them B&B nights, beer and bullshit nights. So that's what I have a lot of fun doing that, as you well know.
Yeah, no, that's the personal thing I take away from it is that camaraderie. Like you said, it's nice to go out and do well, but just getting out with like-minded people that become some of your best mates, and just getting away and sucking in some fresh air and having a look at some flames.
Yeah, it's life sort of. To tell you the truth, I don't see a lot of other people during the week and that because I basically work by myself, and that doesn't worry me at all. I like it that way, but getting away to a dog trial now that's my social scene sort of thing. Now the kids have all gone and you're not continually going to things that they're connected with, but so yeah, I just like, as you know, we gain a lot of really, really good friends out of this. So it becomes your lifestyle a bit.
100%.
What would your job look like without dogs these days?
What would my life look like?
Yeah.
Oh, well,
your job.
In your job mostly, but your life as well.
Oh, well, I'll start with my life. Well, now that the footy's over, it'd be damn boring. But yeah, no, look, I couldn't do my job without my dogs, simply, because they do all the hard work. I just sort of guide them along, point them in the right direction, and sort of open a few gates. And of course, you've got to help them out again. But and see, I'm putting on a bit of weight. But the old saying is, you never ever buy a dog off a skinny bloke.
The camera puts on 10 pounds, mate. Don't worry about it.
Yeah, but it's in that saying, the bloke, the skinny bloke, he's doing all the work, and his dogs are doing no work.
I'll have to remember that one, mate. I'll have to remember it. And tell us a bit about your team, mate. Has the style and type of dog you have in your team now differ much from where your old boy had it? And if so, like, what's influenced that?
Oh, look, it hasn't changed that much. I'm a bit of a traditionalist for good paddock dogs and dogs that head correctly and have got feel on their stock and a bit of brains and whatever. That much has really not changed. And like Dad, that came from my father. A lot of the country he worked on was tough country, and you had to have a paddock dog to get them out of scrub or whatever. They had to, couldn't have a basher or a crasher or whatever, because you just wouldn't get the job done. And I know it's horses for courses, but your main job was actually getting the sheep in out of their paddocks and whatever. And it's, a lot of the country's opened up now and that for farming and other things. But, it's out in marginal, even sort of where we were was even marginal stock country. It was feral goat country and red gravel hills and gullies and, mainly sort of flat country. But yeah, if your dog, and because it was marginal country, your stock were, very rarely, except exceptional seasons, not in great order. So if you had a dog that, wanted to push too much or didn't have any brains or didn't have any feel on stock, you were lying them down all the time. So I remember as a kid, Dad had put me out behind when we were shearing time, he put me out behind a mob of sheep with a couple of his dogs and just leave me, and he'd disappear for an hour, checking the rest of the paddock out or whatever. So I sort of learned back then, if you put on too much pressure, you weren't going to get half the stock in the yard because they would be lying down or whatever. So I'd be no good without my dogs, mate.
That's cool. And what are you looking, or what are you breeding for when you're looking at joining something?
Oh, well, first and foremost, I don't like a dog that can't handle the job properly outside. I find they're a rarity, especially in Kelpies, because I hope I don't upset anyone here, but I find most of the Kelpies these days are bred for yard type work. Just sort of not so much bash and crash. It used to be, but now it's sort of a lot more feel coming into it, even in the yard. But I want a dog that can work outside properly and do the job properly outside, and then in the yard that I can draft by myself or drench or whatever, and they still have enough natural ability and whatever in the yard to do the job for me, which they do. So I'm not I haven't really tried to change what I started off with, or what Dad handed down to me, really.
Yep.
Dad still has a huge interest in the stud, like hasn't been able to lately, but before COVID or whatever, every Saturday morning, if he knew I wasn't working or something, he'd be ringing up, or he'd just lob out and watch me train a few dogs and tell me what I'm doing wrong, or tell me which dog was bad and which dog was good. And he's still got a pretty good sharp eye for a dog too. And he's been a man his whole life that's had an absolute passion for dogs. He just loves them. He still actually rears the odd litter of pups for me, and he's 89 in about 2 weeks' time, and he loves doing that, and he absolutely loves dogs still.
Wow, that's awesome. Did you ever go outside and try some other stuff and then gravitate back to your own, like to see what's about, or you've always been pretty happy with what you've had?
Oh, always trying to improve. But my problem is I love heading dogs and dogs with a bit of feel. And to be honest, I find I don't see, going around the trials or whatever, I see very, very few dogs that do actually Kelpie, that do actually head correct. And then when they do head correctly, hold their ground and still got enough presence and whatever to do the job. And like a pretty handy casting dog and whatever. But I honestly don't see too many dogs that I really want to go to. But I have recently, because I was getting a bit close in my lines and whatever. I went to a few outside dogs, but now I'll come back inside and try to keep my eyes out.
Yeah, awesome.
You mentioned feel there before. What's feel to you? Like, how would you define it?
It's just a dog's ability to know when to put pressure on and when to take it off. It's sort of, well, it's yeah, exactly what I said. It's just when to put pressure on and when to take it off. Like just to have stock reacting to it nicely, so it's not laying sheep down or whatever, or chasing them around the paddock or putting too much pressure on. And then the ability on the other side of the coin to put that pressure on when it's needed. And the good dogs do know how to do it. And it's a funny thing that on the trial ground anyway, these dogs have got a bit of feel in that. Like you walk around the ground and say, oh, so-and-so, he got good sheep again. That dog got good sheep again. Oh, he's lucky, so lucky. But, you know, the good dogs make their own luck. And the ordinary dogs miss out on that luck too. So, yeah, it's a funny thing. But everyone's it's a case of horses for courses, because my dogs suit my area.
Yep.
Where somebody else's dogs down in another area will suit them for what they want. And that's what it should be. I'm not breeding dogs for people in other areas or whatever. I'm breeding dogs for my situation. And if anyone else likes them, that's well and good. But I'm breeding for myself, sort of what my situation is. So
I think that's an important point too. Like breeding dogs to suit yourself. And if somebody likes them, that's great. Because if you're trying to breed dogs to suit someone else, I suppose you kind of lose that passion in what you're trying to achieve.
Yeah, you're exactly right. Sort of, it's no sense in me trying to follow fads or whatever like that. It's sort of, I've got to follow what I want and what I like and what suits me. So, you know, if I'm chasing the money or whatever, you chase your tail around all the time. So, you know, I've been lucky, sort of. I've had two great mentors. I've had a lot of mentors. I've learned a lot of different things off a lot of different people. But my father, like, he's most patient, sort of passionate, kind man to stock and dogs. And one of the biggest things he always taught me was you never force anything. And like, he just wasn't talking about stock or dogs or whatever. He was talking, you never force anything, because if you force something, you break it. And that's so true with dogs. Whatever you force it, if your training method is actually forcing dogs to do something, you might get them to do it, but you're only getting about 60 or 70% out of them. And so, you know, you want 100% of your dog, don't you? Not just a part of your dog. So, yeah, like I say, he always looked on the good side of dogs. I was sort of a little bit the other side. I could see their faults a bit more, and he always focused on what they were great at and what they were good at. And he was the same with humans too. He always saw the good side of every person, never saw the bad side of any person. And I can be a little bit more critical. But anyway, so I was very lucky. I was very lucky with his mentorship, and he's still got more to teach me yet. I know.
Well, that's awesome, mate. It's a good quality to have too.
Yeah, for sure.
We've just had a question come in from Wayne McMillan. Gary, do you like calm, steady temperament in your dogs?
Ideally, yes, but at the same time, I'm not going to condemn a dog that's not so calm but still does the job. I got one dog there who you wouldn't say was calm, but by crikey, not many stock beat him or anything, or he's been hugely successful. But no, look, I probably would prefer. That doesn't mean I'm going to condemn a dog capable of doing the job in another manner.
And Gary, Wayne also added, do you have a preference in colour?
Oh, I've got licorice, all sorts, really. I've got black and tan, red and tan. I've got a couple of blues. I've got saddlebacks. No, a good dog. Good dog's a good dog.
Good dog?
It's the old saying, good dog's any colour.
Another question here from Bree Cudmore. How many years of experience, all the travel you've done, what are some positive changes in dogs, trainers or trials that you've seen over the years?
Sorry, you cut out there a bit.
That's all right. From Bree Cudmore, Having the years of experience and all the travel you've done, what are some positive changes in dogs, trainers, or trials that you have seen over the years?
Look, since I've been trialling, I think the standard of the younger people, and Bree's one of them, has skyrocketed. Very rarely you see out in the ground now dogs out of control. A lot of these young people come in, have got good control. They're just good handlers, got good dogs. So I think the standard has actually risen. I'm sure of it. I think a lot of the reason for that is there is so much access to schools and training, and it's just like everything else. Every other sport, whatever you're doing, has got more professional, and dog trialing's the same. Dog trialing, look, it hasn't changed the format that much. There's these new USD trials, cattle, sheep, and yard, arena, whatever. Apart from that, there's really not much changed for a long time. Yard dog trialing hasn't been around for a great deal of time, but I think the old people, those courses and that were designed to show up the strengths and weaknesses of dogs, especially out in the 3 sheep course or utility courses or whatever. And some people said, "Oh yeah, you don't put 3 sheep through through 2 panels out in the middle of the paddock." And that's not what they're designed for. They're designed to show up the dog's weaknesses, dog's feel, the handler's ability, the dog's temperament, the dog's it's not the point. Like, they're designed. I always hear these people say, "Oh, we're going to design a new course and whatever," and you'll still get, I guarantee you, I've seen a few courses changed over the years and whatever, and you still get exactly the same dogs and the same people up the top. So just generally the standard has gone up that much in thing. I even think that the dogs, this might be controversial, but I think even the dogs have, I think the dog will, in the 3 sheep arena, I think the dogs have been more purpose bred now for 3 sheep trialing. I know when I first started in that and most people, even in the collie world, were coming, people off the land, just coming in on the weekend or Thursday, Friday, and whatever, giving their dogs a run. And, they were all people off the land. But I do think the collies are probably a bit more purpose bred now, where I think the collies, the kelpies, in the yards and the utility trials and that, I think they've become a lot better outside than what they used to be. You see the old National Kelpie videos back from 20, 30 years ago, and I don't think they were the standard outside that they are today. I think they were every bit as good in the yard and back then, but I think everything's got more professional and better trained, and dogs have been better trained.
I was just going to ask, do you think that's the level of control that more people have rather than a selected few?
Yeah, it's over a wider base. There's I'd say 20, 30 years ago, maybe, not that I was around then 30 years ago, but you could pick, 4 or 5 people who are going to win, or 3 or 4 or whatever. But now I think you can just about go to any event and it's, maybe 15 people could win. So just a wider base of people being able to train their dogs and well-trained dogs. And talking about, I haven't mentioned him, but Greg Prince, he's the godfather of, I think, of training in Australia and dog trialing and all dogs. And it's funny, I watched all these interviews, every one of them, and just about everyone has mentioned Greg so far. And I can see, I spent a fair bit of time with Greg, and with more, not so much in a training sense, but more in a mate, sort of having a few beers and stirring each other up and, just playing around or whatever. But I even on Facebook and that, I hear all this language and the way people are putting things, and then I say, well, that's come from Greg. It's just people using it in a different sentence, whatever. But his methods been, well, they've been taught all around the world. and there's not many people in Australia that don't really have a basis from what, even though they mightn't think so, that don't have a basis from what Greg's brought along, and he was just a genius. There's only one fellow that I know that's sort of doing things a fair bit different, that's doing schools or whatever, and that's Jakey Nolan. But even his basics and a lot of his methods are still very, very similar. Very similar.
Yeah. And you mentioned there about stirring people up and, a bit of camaraderie in that. Ollie Anson has asked, who is the biggest pest on the trial scene and why do you pick Daniel Pumper?
Yeah, well, no, I don't know if Pumper is. There's a lot of them, actually. I'm talking about pests, but bloody, a bloke messaged me about 4 times a day and asked if I could give him a Cheerio. Chris Egan, hello, mate, how you going? No, there's a lot of pests. Oh, there's a bloke called Mark Curry too. I think you two met him at Nyngan last year, and he can be a bit of a pest, especially when he wins the nursery and has a few beers. So I've nicknamed him the Corinda Pest. So I think it was.
There you go, and there's the banter that they're hooking to the boys for a bit. So, mate, talking about training and what you do there, how do you go about selecting a pup?
How do I select a pup? Usually it's everyone else comes and has their choice. I try to keep 2 out of a litter. Everyone else that's buying a pup comes in and grabs their pups, and I've got the 2 left. I got no magic formula or whatever. I honestly don't know anyone that has, but I don't know how to pick the best one. A lot of them, a few of the ones I've got is ones that Dad's selected too. I think he's got a lot better eye for a pup than I have, anyway.
Yeah, right. Yeah. So,
who do you think are the most influential dogs in your lines, and why? What made them special?
Oh, geez. Well, I had a really, really good dog, White's Tex. He was, he was very good, actually. He used to more than hold his own on the 3 Sheep ground against the collies, actually, and I used to come off on all the collie fellas. So that Kelpie must have a fair bit of collie in him. But anyway,
big white chest, give that away.
Sorry,
big white chest, give that away.
No, he had no white on at all, except in his prefix. That's all.
Yeah.
No, he was just a brilliant heading holding dog. That was the wilder the sheep were, the better he performed. And back in those days, I sort of wasn't training my dogs much, or I think I was just working on the land all week. And he was a really good dog. But the interesting thing is that he probably only. He was a dog with feel, and he had stock sense and whatever. I actually took him to a couple of. I think he competed in 2 Australian Yard Dog Championships, and he came 4th and 7th. And back in those days, they were, yard dogs were banging and clanging and whatever. But he done it the opposite way. He just did it with stock work and stock sense and whatever, and used to do it. And I wasn't breeding many, like Dad was breeding the dogs back then. I was just having a good time, and he probably only got joined to 6 bitches. But coming down from him, just in the National Kelpie Trial and utility trials, he's sort of, in the last 7 or 8 years, he's had, from his line, whether he's been father or grandfather or whatever, he's probably had 2 or 3 at least in the final every time. And I think at Nyngan there, I think he was the father or the grandfather of 7 dogs there out of the top 10. And but like I say, he hardly ever got used as a sire or anything, and I wasn't a breeder. I was just having a good time doing a bit of trialing. And so sort of all my lines come down from him, really. So he's probably been the most influential there.
Yeah, mate. Dave Brassel has asked, mate, when you're going out to train dogs, what's the one thing you must have with you?
You've got to be in a good mood. No, well, you got to want to do it. Like I touched on earlier, if you don't want to do it, don't go and do it, because you're just going to blow up your dog and put yourself back six months in training, or you can completely bugger their confidence. Like, confidence is everything with a dog, just like children. If your dog's not confident, and if you bust their confidence, you're in for trouble. So everything's confidence.
Yep.
Question here from Will Cox. When it comes to progression, do you ever feel that your younger bred dogs have progressed in a way from the older bred lines?
Sorry, repeat that again.
When it comes to progression, do you ever feel that your younger bred dogs have progressed away from the older bred lines?
Yes, they've changed. We asked this question a bit, that my dogs are they're not quite as true as they used to be, because I have, with the outside dogs or something, they have been slightly more yardy, and I've lost that. I haven't lost it, but they're not quite as good as what they were to be true outside. And to tell you the truth, I don't know from those crosses, I don't know that I've picked up any more yard. In fact, I might have lost a bit of yard, in fact.
Yeah. No. Cool, mate. And we've had a couple of questions here start to go on towards training, I suppose. So I'll start you with a quick one first. Can you briefly touch on your training principles and how they've been developed?
Training principles. Look, I just think I don't know. I just think you got to keep things simple. Don't overthink things. Just common sense, and go out there and, it's not rocket science. There's no secrets. Just go out there, keep it simple. Don't overthink things. One thing that I do try to adhere to is, I find the hardest thing in training a dog is letting them grow up. The hardest part of training a dog is getting them up to 12 months.
Yeah.
Because I see that many young dogs and whatever pushed too hard while they're young and busted, and either got rid of or given away or whatever. And so I don't do that much. Once I've got the instinct out, I balance them up and just keep on socializing them and giving them different, little jobs on trainer sheep or whatever, on 20 or 30 or 5 or 10 or different little things, just progress their mind going. And when I judge they're actually ready to be trained, that's generally around, they're all different. Some might be 10 months, some might be 13 months, some might be 14 months. But when I judge they're ready to be trained, that's when I start training them. But before then, all I'm doing virtually is balancing them. I don't. It's bad. It's because I'm too lazy or whatever. But my dogs hardly even know their name until they're about 11 or 12 months old, until I start taking them to work. I don't take them to work until I've got a bit of a stop and a call on them, and that's 12, 13, 14 months.
And what are you seeing in those 10, 11-month-old dogs to judge that they're ready to do something with?
Their attitude, I suppose. I've been asked this question a heap of times, but it's something I can't explain. It's just something I've learnt to pick up on them, that they're ready to be trained. I suppose I might get them out, and then I might put a little bit of pressure on, or do something, and they might show me, yeah, right, we're ready to go. So, it's a hard thing I can't really explain it, to tell you the truth, but just keep things simple. Don't overthink things. Just try to point your dog in the first 12 months. Just point them in the right direction, really. And just help them out and keep their confidence, because once their confidence is gone, you've got nothing at all. So
you're looking at the way that they react in body language to you, and the confidence they show when you're moving around, and how they're moving around you, and them kind of accepting you? Ready to work with you, but I suppose they'll show that at a younger age too, but sometimes dogs, aren't ready to put a bit of pressure on until a bit later. But I don't want a dog that sort of can't take any pressure at all from a young dog or whatever. But those sort of dogs, if I got them, they get out of the cage very rarely, and then I don't do much with them. Just let them have their way and whatever,
and show them sheep, probably once every 6 weeks. And then I have seen them change, 13 or 14 months sometimes. They just change completely. Kids change. I've done a bit of football coaching and whatever, and I've seen kids that when they were young, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12-year-old, that were absolutely bloody hopeless. And I've seen that the same kids at 16, 17 and 18 become champions. And so you can't, that's what I say, it's hard to judge a dog real early, but in saying that, just about every good dog I've had, I've known it's been a pretty good dog at 4 or 5 months of age.
Yeah.
You go.
I was going to say, what did it show at that age that you liked about it?
Probably getting around to the front of the mob, or position of control. Getting to the position of control properly and holding that position. And it's just showing feel and stock sense. Not a chaser. Another saying I have, I want a dog that works sheep. I don't want a dog that chases sheep or stock, whatever, cattle, whatever we're working. I want the dog to be working them, not chasing them. And so that dog that gets around to the point of control and pulls up and just calms everything down, but still holds those sheep and holds them properly, well, that's showing a fair bit of what I like. And if they get around there properly and whatever, they're going to be handy casting dogs properly, and they're not going to shoot across the shoulder or cross under the neck or whatever. They're going to get around to the head properly, in that position, and then pull up. So it's all comes down to feel and a dog working correctly.
So there's a question here from Bob Kerfoot. Are there any preferred training videos that you recommend for first-time sheepdog owners?
I haven't been a real big video watcher. Of course, I like Greg's, but it really, to tell you the truth, wasn't a training video. It's very handy and whatever, but there's a lot of good tips there. But look, I'm a bit unqualified to actually answer that one because I sort of haven't really watched a lot of them. But I'm sure there is. There'd be heaps out there if you look for them.
No, and if you're there, Bob, there's if you jump on the stockdogs.com.au, there's a few different videos there available from different handlers throughout the country, mate. So
they'll be restocked again soon in the next couple of days. So
you can get on there and see if there's something to suit you.
Just in saying,
you go.
Just in saying that, Ian O'Connell, who you had on last week, I haven't watched it, but I've heard 3 or 4 or more than that say it is a very good video on training dogs, even though I haven't watched it, but I'll have to now.
Amanda Dunbar here is asking, how do you build confidence in a dog that is keen but rushes in corners and hasn't got the intimidation to move sheep when they're locked up?
Confidence comes right from the very, very, very time you put them in there, and your body positioning, and that rushing into corners is one of the classic cases of a dog that's lost confidence, or that that dog's not ready for that. That's why I'm a bit of a student of the round yard. It doesn't have to be a round yard. It can be just a square yard with a panel across each corner. Because what happens when sheep get into a corner, what do? We get behind them or whatever. We put our body pressure on them for that dog to go into the corner, pressure on by barking, biting, or just lying down or quitting. So we've got to get them. Once again, that word, we've got to get them sort of getting around sheep without us putting that much pressure on them, that they feel it. And then when they feel our pressure and we put more and more pressure on them, that's when they lose confidence. It's exactly when they do lose confidence. So I always, in that situation, I set it up so the dog's going to have a win. So instead of me trying to push that dog into the corner and putting a lot of pressure on it, I'll just I'll catch that dog and I'll get those sheep out of the corner myself with the dog. And when the dog has a chance to actually get around between the fence and the sheep, I'll let that dog do it, and hopefully it takes that chance. So we're trying to train a dog without pressure. We're just putting our pressure in certain positions so that dog, we're not making the dog's mind up for him. We're just putting pressure in a certain situation where it's got time to react to that pressure and then go the other way. So we're not forcing it. And that's where I think a lot of mistakes are made, where dogs are over pressured, because same thing, like I'm a rake enthusiast, and if you good old Facebook and that, a lot of people say, oh, bloody rake, and whatever, and chasing a pup around the round yard with a rake. It's not what you're doing at all if you're doing it correctly. It's just putting pressure in a certain spot. And people who say that about the rake are obviously using, to me, I'm being controversial again here, but people who are making that comment aren't using it in the right way it should be, probably.
Probably got broken rakes all around the yard.
Yeah, when I do my schools and that, always, not me, but there's always a broken rake or two.
Yeah. And what you just described there, I suppose Belinda Halliwell's asked something similar, but she's asked if you had the sheep in a pen in the middle, would that help to get a sticky-eyed dog to get around them?
Yeah, for sure. You've got to sort of, those sticky-eyed dogs, you want to keep them moving all the time. Every time they stop, move them off their position. You put your position you put your presence in a different spot so that dog moves straight away. And it's the opposite for a dog that's too loose-eyed. If they do pick up that point and want to stop or something, you let them stop there for a while, and know that they can actually stop there for a while. So it's just opposite with a sticky-eyed dog to a loose-eyed dog.
Yep. And I'll just quick hello to our friends in the Netherlands there watching us tonight. Hope you're not sure what time or day it is over there, so hope you're enjoying our conversation.
Your training has taken you all over the world. Can you explain your self-satisfaction you get from doing them?
Yeah, well, look, schools sort of all together. Schools were actually something that I sort of fell into. I sort of first one I ever did was over in America in 1999, and these people, Vern and Susan Thorpe from Iowa, they were Kelpie enthusiasts, and they had a thing going over there they called the Australian Fund, and they used to get an Australian person over there every year to run a school. And Greg Prince had been over there, Chris Stapleton had been over there, Dad had been over there. I can't remember. Anyway, they invited me because they'd been over here and whatever, and I'd spent a few hours with them. And I said, I can't do this. The first time I'd ever done a school. And my wife, Angie, said, yeah, you're doing it. And we did. So anyway, since then it's grown and grown and grown. And, I've been lucky, well, Angie and I have been lucky enough to go overseas. We've got great friends in America and Canada and Finland, Germany, whatever. We've been really lucky, and hopefully next year we'll be overseas a couple of times again next year. But we've just been so lucky, and it's good to meet people all around the world, that's interested in dogs. And I see some different dogs and whatever, but the basics are all the same and whatever. And so it's good. We have a great time, and we both love traveling. So travel during the week and do clinics on the weekends or whatever. And people are just fantastic. Like you go to America, you get looked after like a king and whatever. And so, it's great. I mean, like I say, we've got some very good friends in a lot of different corners of the world.
So is there anything you see in your schools that sort of believe most people are struggling with, and is something that we could all fix?
Positioning, body positioning and body language, where we position ourselves, where we stand, where we put the pressure on, when we take it off. it's basically. And look, I've got to take my hat off. There's a lot of people come to schools and whatever that have no access to sheep every afternoon or whatever. Like I can stand on my back veranda and send a dog and have sheep here in 2 minutes. And I think those type of people haven't got access and whatever to stock. I really take my hats off to them. And it's very hard for them if they're not working stock all the time. One of the hardest things I had to do when I started running schools was come from ground zero and just not assume that people had worked with stock all their lives and had the opportunity to be with dogs and work stock. So I had to come right back to the very, 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 very basics. And I had to appreciate sort of where they were coming from. And but back to your question now, I think it was just basic positioning and when to put pressure on, when to put pressure off. But you're asking about my principles and that, like you've heard this said before, but the basic principles is really pressure on, pressure off. That's how much most animals are trained or whatever. And too much pressure while you're training, and that'll blow your dog's confidence. And not enough pressure sometimes will let them run over the top of you. They've got to respect you. They have to respect you, and there's a fine line between respect and fear. They don't have to fear you. They've got to love you, but they've got to respect you at the same time.
Question here from Lance Clifford. Are you seeing many very correct dogs with strength suitable for 3 sheep trialling? One of his greatest regrets in starting the yard dog competition is that he has lost a few of the aforementioned dogs, or they are now much harder to find.
Yes, they most definitely are. They that's why I say you asked me about outside size and whatever. I find very hard to find that outside size purely in that because there's not many of them around anymore that are correct and what Lance is actually talking about.
So have you seen any around lately when you're traveling around schools and stuff, or not really?
No, not really. Like I say, before I out of school, when anyone's coming in, I always ask the breeding, how old, what's the breeding, mother, father, whatever. And but like this is only my preference. It's only what I want. It's what I want for my situation. And like I say, it's horses for courses. Other people want other traits and attributes and whatever that I don't want. So this is just on a personal basis. That's all.
Having seen so many dogs around and so many handlers, you said that you ask for what the dog's breeding is at the beginning of a school. Does that give you an indication sometimes of how to help that handler with that dog having previous experience with the lines?
Oh, for sure. Yeah. I can nearly pick a lot of the lines now without actually asking them, and it's interesting how strong, like lines that are very prevalent, how they work, and it's funny talking about handlers too. Like you can have a handler there with 3 or 4 dogs, and all their dogs have got the same problems, or they're good at the same thing. So it just shows you how much as a handler we're having an influence on the dogs. So, but I definitely I can nearly pick different lines and that when they come out.
You mentioned earlier when we were talking about breeding and stuff, true out. What do you mean by that?
They work correctly. They're not cutting in. They're not. They've got feel. They got stock sense. They got, probably the best way to describe it is like if you sent your dog out 300 or 400 or 500 meters or whatever on 3 or 4, 10 flighty sheep or something, they're going to handle it there by themselves and don't have to be told what to do down there. They naturally got genetically what it's got to do that. And any good dog I've ever had is sort of cast them down the bottom end or whatever, and you leave it up to them, because I've never been the greatest trainer in Australia or anything like that. I go to these 3 sheep trials, and even a couple of these young Kelpie fellas and whatever can move them 1 foot to the left and 1 foot to the right and whatever at 200 meters and whatever. Like, oh, I can't do that. My dogs have got to do that. So that's what I'm looking. Sorry?
Can you see that far?
I won't be able to soon. Hey, listen, it was like an old age home here before I had to change my shirt because I spilled half my tea on it. And time's coming.
But I know what you're saying there. You love that natural type that's thinking for itself, and you're educating your dog to work sheep. You're not telling your dog what to do.
Yeah, I just want a dog that's sort of pointed in the right direction. And because, like I say, I train a dog a hell of a lot more than I used to. In the last 3-4 years, I've training dogs a lot more than I ever used to. And before that, I just sort of was lucky enough, Dad had it cemented in his lines enough that they did have natural ability. And Dad was a bloke who never even, really trained a dog at all. He sort of hardly even had a stop on him, that he was just relying on their natural ability. And I remember Greg Prince, Greg and Dad were always pretty good friends. And I always remember Greg saying to him on, I don't know how many occasions, he said, if you ever train those dogs, Johnny, you'll go pretty well. And he was pretty well right, because, Dad was selecting on dogs that sort of naturally did it. And it's a new wave, these young fellas these days. They are really training their dogs, and there's some really good trainers in there. But I want a dog that gets out there 200 or 300 meters, can handle it themselves without me having to tell them what to do. And then I can only have a bit of an influence when they get up closer to me. So anyway.
So, question here on that topic from Jacob Bryan. What are the most natural dogs you have or know of at the moment?
Oh, geez. Bloody hell. Well, I'd like to think, I've lost a little bit of that natural in there going out, but I'd like to think most of my dogs that I keep are reasonably natural. But I'll give a rap to a dog here that not one of mine actually. One of the most natural dogs that's come along in a fair wild Kelpie line was Thunderbirdy Buster, and he was a very, very natural dog, and that, a person might criticise him for this or whatever, but there's no perfect dog and whatever, and that dog's record sort of proves, he was natural, and he was just a really good natural dog. You don't see the really, really good natural ones come along, or to tell you the truth, it might be a bit hard to see how natural they are, because a lot of these dogs these days are trained to an absolute, they're trained to a very high level, and because they've got so much command on them that it's hard to see them if they're actually working naturally or not. So it's hard to gauge sometimes.
Yep.
Question here from Chris Egan. Does your dad still have any influence on your breeding now? Do you have similar views on dogs when you look to breeding?
Hello, Chris again. I said hello to you. Look, we still like the same type of dog. There's no doubt about it. Still like the same type of dog. He comes, like I say, he comes out and he'll tell me whether he likes that dog or this dog or whatever. We still got largely the same views. He tells me that one's no good or whatever.
And Matt Fletcher has asked, do you have any exciting young pups coming through at the moment, or something young that's grabbed your attention?
No, I won't say I have, because you go around the trial ground or you talk to somebody on the phone and everyone's got 3 or 4 brilliant pups at home. Best pup I've ever had. You wait until you see this one and whatever. And 95% of those good young dogs or whatever, you never see them or hear from them at all. So it's all, if you're skiting up, look, my father always told me in relationship to dogs, or anyway in life, he says, self-praise is no praise. So I try to live by that, okay?
And mentioned there before about at trial, sometimes it is hard to see a natural type of dog, because there's so much control. What are you personally looking for you do a bit of trialing. What are you personally looking for in a dog when you're out there?
Well, it comes back to natural ability and trainability. If they've got natural ability and they can be trained, you've got most bases covered, haven't you?
Yeah. So if something runs a bit of a muck, but seems to be in the right spot, does that necessarily turn you off that dog a bit, or it's not pulling up on every single whistle, but it's in a spot where the handler hasn't seen yet, and the dog's got there before old mate or old girl can necessarily indicate it to be?
I've never ever had a dog that doesn't disobey me more than it listens to me out in the trial ground, to tell you the truth.
Yeah.
Hopefully that changes a bit, but look, I don't want a dog. If a dog's supposed to be in a certain position, I'm telling it to be somewhere else. I want that dog to override me and be in that position. They've been bred to work stock for how long, and sort of they're quicker to read stock than we are. So I just tend to trust them a bit more, or maybe it might be I don't have control of them enough. But I'm not in favour of telling a dog to stop, and if sheep are busting out or running past him or whatever, I couldn't stand a dog just sitting there while that was happening.
Yep.
Even if I was telling him to stop, I'd expect that dog to override me.
Yeah, that's important, and I think that's a great thing, rather than the dog just sitting there and watching sheep run away, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah. I want to. When I go to work and whatever, I want the dog to do the work. It's how I chill out is, get out in the back paddock or something. You might have to walk your sheep in 10 kilometres to the yards or something, and get out there with your dogs and just tick along on the motorbike, and they do their job. I don't want to tell them what to do every 5 seconds or whatever. I want them to hold up their wing or any pressure point or whatever. They just take their position off my position, and then hopefully we have a great day. And of course, you take young dogs out there and things might go astray or whatever, but everyone's got to learn. Every person's got to learn. Every dog's got to learn. And there's no perfect dog, no perfect human, is there? So we've got to allow a few mistakes.
Yeah, that's right.
Absolutely.
So why do you trial?
I have fun.
Yeah.
I have fun, like I say. I enjoy the challenge between the stock and the dog, and like I say, I love having a few beers and back around and later on, and you do get all types of people there. Some people get very serious about their trials. I've seen grown men sit in the car and sulk, and grown men crying that when they didn't win the blue ribbon. And I've seen people that have never got out of the first bloody nursery or encouraged it cast their dog for 30 metres and brought the sheep back with more happier than somebody who might have come second in an Australian championship or something. So everyone gets different levels, but and like I say, everyone goes there to win. If you get the blue ribbon, there's only one championship winner. So if we don't have our fun in between, what's the sense in it? And let's face it, we're all good winners.
That's right.
But Greg Prince used to say to me, he said, we're all good winners, but he said judge a person when they didn't win. That's when you judge them, not when they're winning. So
Mark Mangold has sorry, mate, what was that last bit?
I don't know. Probably bullshit.
But sorry, we just got a stack of questions come through, and we're just trying to be mindful of the time as well.
You can go for 2 or 3 hours. Don't worry, mate.
Well, I know you and I could talk here all night, so we might have to give Laura a Red Bull. Mark Mangold has asked, would there be a section in a trial that you'd like to see without any commands to showcase natural ability?
For sure. Over in Western Australia, they do. At the Kelpie trial, they said cast, lift and draw. Well, cast anyway for a start. You weren't allowed to talk to your dog, which I think it should be everywhere, whether it's free or utility trial, anywhere. And when this was put on, I saw dogs that I thought were natural casting dogs were terrible casting dogs. When about 10 metres or 20 metres on a 220 metre cast, pull up.
Yep.
Or just run direct to the sheep. So, you know, I couldn't believe it. There were a couple of, a few dogs there that I thought were good casting dogs, but they weren't good natural casting dogs at all. So, you know, I'd love to see that. And it is in 3 sheep trials. The judges say they want to see a free running cast. So if someone's talking to their dogs all the time and sort of pushing them on, oh, you've got to see it. Every case is different. There's sort of got to be a perfect cast, and there's got to be casts that aren't so perfect.
Yep.
So I think you with your cast lift, with your lift and draw, it can be a bit hard. I think you've got to be able to help your dogs a bit there, but you know, certainly the cast I think should be your mouth closed.
Talking about your mouth, Mark said he's coming to your school in October. What beer should he bring with him?
Oh, any beer, mate. Bloody, whatever you like to drink, mate, I'll help you drink it. That's if you can come. No, I'll even shout a few. I always shout a carton at my schools Saturday afternoon. So
was that a pallet or a carton?
Carton.
Oh, carton. I just thought I'd just clarify it.
Maybe 2.
Yeah, happy days.
No, look, just talking on that point, you know, most people go to a school, and I just when I'm running a school, I just want it to be fun. I want people to relax, enjoy themselves, have a laugh, enjoy their dogs. And I find, you know, you bring a carton of beer or a few drinks out at about 3 o'clock on Saturday afternoon, the whole mood changes. And then suddenly everybody's relaxing, having a good time. And what we're there for, to, you know, get in and work our dogs and just relax and have fun. And that's what it's all about. If we're not having fun, we shouldn't even be doing it, should we?
100%.
I agree.
Yeah, and like even over in America, I've got them trained over there that bloody margaritas start at 3 o'clock.
Yeah, right, yeah. With or without the umbrella?
Doesn't matter. The last one we had about 4 different varieties. They were pretty bloody good. But anyway, no, it's supposed to be fun, and like we're all like-minded people. We like dogs, so let's just enjoy them and have fun. I don't want anyone to stress out about getting in a ring in front of me or anything like. I you know, a lot of people get in the round yard and get totally phased out, and like I've been in the same situation. I remember when I first got in the round yard, I didn't know a thing about them, and I was down at Greg's, and I got in there, and Greg said, "What are you doing?" And I said, "I don't know." I just felt awkward for a hell of a long time, and I fully understand why other people do. But you don't have to have a round yard, like I say. You can have a square yard. It's whatever suits you. You know, people get their knickers in a knot sometimes about a round yard or whatever. But anyway, whatever makes you happy.
Do you always have a yard?
Yeah, and the reason I start dogs off in a smaller yard is because they learn to handle you in closer terms, and they learn to handle stock in closer terms.
Yeah.
And so I've seen plenty of dogs are broken in outside, and then they come into a smaller area, or they have to be close into a sheep, like at an obstacle or something. They just don't know how to handle it. So you break them in there, but it's a lot of people like to break them in outside because they don't end up putting much pressure on them themselves. It takes out that factor. But you know, you've got to be very mindful about our positioning and how much pressure we put on them. Like I say, you don't force a dog to work. You just place the pressure in a certain area that they see that pressure point and make the decision themselves. You don't hunt them or anything. You just put that block in a certain area, and like wherever I put that block or body position, they've got enough time to react to it before it's just not suddenly put in front of them. They've got time to react to that pressure point. So
I'll be honest with you, I'm a bit lazy, and my dog kennel's up near my house, so a lot of my training is like let a dog out of its pen and just move sheep around my house, around the front paddock, just purely because I'm a bit lazy to grab them and take them down to my yards, to be honest. But it is something that I just go, I do need to get this dog in a round yard to get it going around a bit more, you know.
Yeah, but I bet you at some stage you've done a few basics and whatever in a smaller area.
Yeah, I like to use fences and corners a lot.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
know,
well,
obstacles,
same.
whether it's a tree or something. So,
Yeah, no,
100%.
it's sort of the same thing. But and you've got good broken sheep, I bet. So that's
Now.
one of the main ingredients is to have sort of quieter sheep that you can get into position and they're not knocking your dog around or whatever. I know some people that say, oh, you know, can't have quiet sheep and they can be too quiet and whatever. And, you know, for starting off, you know, you want to have a little bit of movement when you're first getting their instinct out, so it creates that instinct to come out. But you can, you know, after that, you know, my sheep are that quiet. And I've had the same training weathers for over 3 years.
Yep.
And so, you know, but look, I'm lucky. I can, you know, 11 or 12, 13 months or whatever, I can take them out and they've got thousands of wild ones to work. So I haven't got, you know, it's not as though they're stuck on quiet sheep all the time.
That's a go. Yep.
Question come through here. What's your favourite dog trial you've been to?
Oh, geez. Well, obviously, I love the National Kelpie Trial. I try to go to it every year because it goes from state to state every year and you catch up with people from everywhere, all over Australia, once a year at whatever state. So love the Kelpie Trial and I love Melrose State Championship, South Australian Utility Championships over in Melrose, South Australia. Now, it's good fun because you sit around the campfire all day because it's usually freezing. Of course, the Eskies right there, and you go out and you have good fun. It's a fantastic venue, like one of the most, I think it's the most picturesque ground I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah.
And the committee and whatever just do an absolutely magnificent job. And like I say, I just like the camaraderie and the friendship over there. It's a lot more relaxed than in New South Wales. New South Wales, everybody, you know, we all sort of might get a bit uptight sometimes and whatever. We've got to win that gold chain and watching gold chain and whatever. And it's a lot more serious in New South Wales. Over there, it's just, have a great time. Go there, have a go with your dog. If you do any good, that's good. If you don't, you don't. So it's just fun. It's just fun.
And what do you feel is your greatest achievement so far, mate?
On the trial ground?
Anyway, you tell me.
Oh, my 3 kids.
Yeah, well, there you go. You answered that right. Hope Angie's watching that. All your kids.
Okay. No, she said she wouldn't listen to me. She's going to watch it tomorrow, she said.
You heard your voice enough.
On the trial ground, I'd have to, well, because I love the National Kelpie Trial, my 5 wins there. But my favourite one, that was at the 50th anniversary. And the fact that, like I said, my dad's 88, nearly 89. Carl Carlin was very, very kind. He went 200 kilometres out of his way to come and pick Dad up and take him down there on the Saturday. And the finals were on the Sunday.
It was a car call, right?
Yeah, it was a car call.
Yep, I remember that, yeah.
And I had a pretty good trial and, you know, got 3 placings or something and won it. And the fact that Dad was there, I was, it meant a lot to me because I won it with a bitch called Chrissy that he actually started off when he was still working dogs. Yep. And Mum got sick and they had to move into town and I think I got him at 11 months of age or something, but Dad had started Chrissy and Jimmy and their brother and sisters. So it was very special. And even in 2016, Mum and Dad were because it was at Nyngan, we actually ran it. And when I won it there, Mum and Dad were there. So that was very special. And another one that I'm very is fella. He'd done his leg in. He'd had a $5,000 operation. He'd been out for 10 months. And his first trial back, I went to the National 3 Sheep Trial at Canberra, which is, you know, the time-honoured trial in 3 sheep trialling. And it's the national and goes back to Whoop Whoop. And his first trial back, he came third there, and the only 2 dogs that beat him and 2 handlers had only 3 or 4 months before represented Australia against the New Zealanders over in New Zealand.
Yeah,
So,
wow.
so I was pretty happy with that, and they were Billy Davison and Greg Prince were the 2 handlers. And am I allowed to say another one?
Go for your life.
I was runner-up for the New South Wales Championships 3 sheep trialling too, which I'm talking about a Kelpie in a border collie world, and I had a run-off for first place and lost it by the point in the run-off. So and that was with Fallon. He was only a really young dog at that stage, and so they were all fun. They're all very fond in my memories.
Well, what do you think your sweet spot is? You mentioned fella being young. What do you think your sweet spot is for a trialling dog?
Oh, it depends on each different dog. Look, I think Kelpies are a bit slower maturing than collies. Like, collies sort of 3 or 4 or 5 really, but a lot of the Kelpies sort of, before they probably settle down a bit more or whatever, they might be 5, 6, 7.
Yeah.
But they're talking about that fella, like I took him to Molong the year before or whatever. Like I honestly just took him to give him a run, and he just sort of, as though he was an old dog and done it before, and I think he won the novice there by about nearly 50 points, and then went back the next year or whatever. I think it was the next year, whatever, and then I think he had 4. He had a top that Saturday when the final was on. I think he had his top 20 run. He improved a final run. He had his top 6 final run, and then a run off, like all in about 3 hours. And so anyway, that's sort of
Not anyway. He was a pretty consistent dog, mate. You must have been pretty proud of him.
Oh yeah, no, he was what he was. He was a terrific station dog. He was just a dog from the time I took him out. It was as though he knew where the gates were and where we were supposed to be going. He just sort of was a la natural, as though he'd been there 10 years before. And he sometimes got judged out on the ground not by judges, but other people saying, oh, he's a bit soft or whatever. But he was a dog that only ever put on pressure when he had to, and he just had beautiful feel on stock. And he was a dog that, for station work and that, and he could jerk it into weathers or whatever. He was sort of, he only just used what he had to all the time. I never saw him stood up by anything, whether it be rams or whatever. But then you walk around the ground and people say, oh, that dog's pretty soft or whatever. And I said, that's just his feel. But anyway, that's the way it is. That's the way it is. So people really don't know other people's dogs because they're not working with them all the time. And even with judging, like I've been lucky enough to judge just about all the big 3 sheep trials in Australia. Like I judged the Supreme and the Commonwealth Championships, the National Championships at Canberra, the Australian Championships. And after I judged, you sit around the trials a bit and whatever, and we all judge the other judges. But after I started judging and doing a few, I never even judge all the other judges. It's a total different perspective, and you might look away for 10 seconds when you're bloody sitting on the sideline and miss that much. So, I just don't judge any other judges. That's all.
Between judging, the training you've had as a young fella and growing up and training people, which do you think has made you a better handler?
The whole lot combined.
Yeah.
I tell you what, judging trials, you learn so much and see so much that, like I just said, that from the sideline you do not see. I think judging is a great way to actually see exactly how it should be done or should not be done or whatever. And look, I've just been lucky. Like I say, Dad was always sort of helping me out, and I've learned a lot of things off heaps of different people, and I hope I keep on learning heaps more off a lot more people. If I had a dream life, I'd like to go to every good trainer in Australia and the world and spend a week with them, and that's never going to happen. But everyone's got different methods. We're all aiming for the same thing, but everyone's got slight variation in their methods, and I try to. I'm a bit of a slow learner, to tell you the truth, but I have to think about things for 2 or 3 months before it sinks in. And I'd like to. Yeah, there's plenty to learn out there. It sort of just gets more and more involved all the time.
With 5 Kelpie championship field trial champions under your belt, if you're a slow learner, I hate to see what you're going to achieve when you start hitting 80, mate.
Oh, geez. No, I won't be getting around then. I won't be like old Kevy Howe, mate. He's 79 now and he's as sharp as he ever was, mate. I reckon I'll be in a nursing home by then.
He's a competitor, mate. He doesn't give up, and he always has a crack. I'll take my hat off to him. Like, I just love actually watching Kevin, just his determination. And he can start with the worst 2 minutes of a trial and end up on top. And I just think that's a great quality to be able to have, that never say die attitude and keep going.
Yeah, he's the ultimate competitor. Competitor. He puts it all heart and soul into, and good on him. And sort of Evie and I over the years have had a heap of good battles, and there was a rumor a couple of years ago that he was going to retire, and I felt all sad because I love going to the thing and watching him work and having a crack against him and whatever. So, but he didn't retire, so it was good.
No, very good.
Question here from Kane Gardner. Do you like the concept of the USD trials, and would you ever do those type of trials yourself?
Yeah, I think they're a great concept and whatever, and I do them myself and whatever. I haven't been to one yet, but the time's coming. Time's definitely coming. I do a bit of cattle work and whatever, and to tell you the truth, I find it's just a good fun day when you're doing your cattle work. A good fun day for the dogs and whatever. They can just be dogs. Not so much of a flight zone or whatever. If they get in a bit closer or whatever, they can get a kick up the guts or whatever. But anyway, it's just fun for them. I just find it takes all the stress out of the dogs. It's just kids in the playground. It's just fun, and as long as I sometimes put my hand over my eyes and don't watch too closely and whatever, because there's some very valuable dogs in the dog world can get get seriously injured by cattle.
And away from drinking beer, mate, do you have any hobbies or hidden talents that people probably wouldn't know about you?
Oh, mate, I'm passionate about my football, the Mighty Dragons, 16 premierships and more to come.
I was hoping it'll be something else by the Dragons.
I think Parramatta have won 4 premierships, haven't they?
No comment.
Yeah. No, so look, it's a battle. It's a battle on the weekends, actually, whether I train my dogs or watch the footy. And footy wins out most of the time. But I do love my football, and that's proper football, not that southern bloody stuff.
That aerial ping pong.
Yeah.
What would you like to see on the Dog Talk website, or what can we do to service our listeners and community?
The first complaint I've got is that you've got to have Dog Talk 5 days a week now that football's over. And instead of just going for an hour, you've got to go for 2 hours. Now, I thoroughly enjoy it. I was frantic that first night when I couldn't get logged in or whatever. And I about 20 minutes late, and I really love it. And thanks a lot for doing it. And I think it's great. And I can't get enough of it personally. And like you said, Daniel, I can talk dogs for a long time, and so can you, and a lot of other people can too. But great concept, and well done to both of you. I hope it continues and it gets the support it should get.
Thanks, mate. I'm not sure my coffee bill would be able to sustain 5 days a week. I'm sort of hard to keep awake some days during the day as it is. But no, totally appreciate how much you actually appreciate it. So fantastic. Thank you.
Yeah, to highlight them. Thursday, Friday nights used to be, but it's gone now. So it's definitely Tuesday nights.
Is there one person you'd like to see us sit down and do a Q&A with?
Actually, I've got 3 or 4 names.
Right away.
I reckon you should try to get them before they fall off the perch. Well, look, Tony McCallum.
Yep.
I've talked to him on the phone a few times or whatever, going back a bit and whatever. He spent a lot of time over in America and whatever. I see him comment on Facebook or whatever every now and again, and everything he says or writes or whatever is so articulate, and
Yeah, he is, isn't he?
I just think he's fantastic with a lot of the things he says and whatever. And I think he might have been the commentator at Tamworth, was he, on the cattle dog trial?
Oh, I'm not sure, but I agree. I rang him up for something away from Kelpies or working dogs, and 2.5 hours later, we're like, what was that other question again? So I totally get what you mean there about articulate, mate. He definitely looks deep inside a dog's head.
Yeah, no, and I think a few of these older fellas, and look, you got Pippi Hudson out there, who will absolutely entertain everyone for 5 weeks if you got the time.
Yeah,
and you could get Pip on there, you could get Mick on there. Like actually, there's 4 generations of Hudsons that have been in the trial game, and all come stockmen, all grew up as stockmen and whatever, and you could get 3 generations in one go with, Pip and Mick and Harry and whatever, or who else, and whether you could work that or not. And 2 other fellows I'll mention, Jeff Gibson from up in Queensland. Robert Johnson the other night mentioned a bloke called Les Armstrong.
Yep.
Now, Les Armstrong was an absolute legend.
Any walk on the moon?
No, he didn't. Sorry.
What?
No, he didn't. But no, he was an absolute legend with a dog, and what he couldn't do with a dog was, not worth worrying about. And I'm pretty sure that Jeff Gibson was, one of his, we spent a fair bit of time with him and a bit of a protege. So I think if you ask him about Les or whatever, you get some interesting information. And, he's represented Australia, I don't know how many times, against New Zealand. And also Johnny Perry down at Bredbow. He's captain Australia, whatever, and he's been a great dog man, but he was a shearing contractor, and, he's done this and that and whatever. I think he'd be a good, interesting talk. And, I think you try to get a few of these older fellas, while we can.
Yep. Actually, just then when you mentioned the Hudsons, who I might be watching there tonight, g'day boys, how you going, and girls? Wayne McMillan asked the question here, is your family related to the famous Victorian trial handler Thomas White, who was a dominant trialer in the 1920s and 30s?
No, but we're related to Harry White, the famous jockey.
Yeah, rightio.
No, we're
there you
not.
go.
No.
Got me, hook, line, sinker. I'm not a horse person by any means, mate.
But I will tell you something interesting. When I was a young fella and that, because Mum and Dad and a few other people and whatever ran the Australian Street Sheep Championships at Nyngan for years and years and years. And I'm talking about the 60s and early 70s and whatever. And there are a few of the household names from back there. I can remember the blokes like Jeff Jolly. Like, I was only tiny, but I can remember Jeff Jolly, and a bloke called what's the name? Billy Marshall. There was all these household names there, and I can remember there. It's a pity Dad couldn't come and have a talk about them, but I just don't think it might happen. But yeah, so like I say, our family holidays way back then was going to a dog trial, which I used to love. So I got the dog wog real early, and a lot of those. And Dad always told me, Jeff Jolly was the top of the tree back in his day, and then when Greg Prince come along, I think Dad regarded Jeff and Greg the two outstanding ones, but there's been a hell of a lot of bloody good ones in between. And
talking about trainers, mate, and coming around, Belinda Halliwell has asked, have you got any upcoming clinics and the best way to find out about them?
Well, I have got one coming up in Forbes near the end of October, but until the borders open up or whatever, it's sort of hard to get back down to. I know Belinda and yeah, she's come to one of my schools, but it's hard to until borders reopen and whatever to really put anything down. Not many people are interested doing schools over the summer months either,
Yep.
especially when Christmas is coming around or whatever. And anyway, look, you just have to. We a lot of times now put them on our White's Kelpie Stud page.
Yep.
Just advertise them there or whatever. But so yeah, but like I say, until the borders open and whatever, and it's a bit hard to plan anything interstate.
Yeah, 100%.
So sort of that time of night now where we asked you to pick the best question.
Oh, I'm flat out remembering it. Can you jog my memory a bit?
Oh,
There's
geez.
a fair few questions come through. If you sort of have a rough idea, I can go through and find that person's name.
Who was the lady who asked about the dog going into the corner? Amanda Dunbar.
Yep.
About the dog in the corner.
You said your memory was shit.
Sorry?
You said your memory was shit. You smashed it. That's exactly what it was.
Yeah, but I'm a senior and I had to think about it.
Amanda, if you could message the page with your contact details and we'll get that bag of dog food to you.
Also, while we've still got everyone around, we're going to have to actually try something a bit different next week. Laura and I are going to be on the road. So what we're going to do, we're actually going to try and have our first international guest on. So Laura Heinekens from She Shepherds in the UK. So to do that, we're going to have to do it a bit different, obviously, because it won't be able to be live with the time differences. So how are we going to do that, Laura?
We're going to set up on our Facebook and obviously you can email through questions that you have for her and we'll be asking them in our pre-recorded chat with her.
So if you're not familiar with Laura, She Shepherds in the UK is her Facebook page. She's got a lot of very well handled collies along that ISDS line, and she's got some very good YouTube videos there. And just seems like a real nice girl to get on chat, and she's got a story behind her as well. So yeah, get on board. Don't be shy. If you've got something to say, guys, or some questions, shoot them to us because we're not mind readers. And we don't know what you want to hear. So otherwise you might just hear Laura and myself bumbling on. So don't be afraid to shoot through your questions.
Hey, while I've still got you, well done on your mental health raising money. What is it, Black Dog Institute? Well done on that, and hope everyone's contributing.
No, thanks, mate. While you actually put that out there, I want to actually put out a big thanks. So I've actually personally exceeded my own target, but not only that, I think we've nearly tripled the target we set. And would like to thank Natalie Grimmer, Marie McKillop joined on. In the last week, we've also had Lauren Vest, Jake Nowlan.
We have raised well over I can get up the exact amount now, but it's well over $2,000, close to the $3,000. Let me find it.
I think we actually had someone else jumped on board today.
I didn't see that one. Well, we've raised $2,800, which is well above our target. So thank you, everyone.
Yeah, really appreciate that. And I'm a tenth of the way from my own walk, so I'll keep going.
Hey, listen, I've got an idea
Far away.
for the girls, buddy. This bloke who wanted me to say, Chris Egan, you'd probably get him on board and he loves to. You probably get him on. I'll tell you what, if you get him on, I'll give more money. I'll give $100. Get him on board and walking, okay? With his shirt off.
There you go, Chris. I'm sure with his shirt off. There you go. Well, Chris will be watching there tonight, so there you go. If you want to see Gary give a green one away, there you go. Maybe you just want to see a couple of Snapchats if you're doing your walk with your shirt off, mate, and we'll hold you there, Gary. How many green ones for you to take your shirt off, Gary?
Oh, geez, bloody 2 million. No one wants to see that at all.
Very cool.
We'd like to thank everyone for tuning in tonight and our listeners that will be listening back later. Thank you so much. And one last question, Gary. Would you rather fight one duck the size of a horse or 20 horses the size of ducks?
Thought about this one, and
Knew you would.
I'm going to go the 20 horses the size of ducks because, you know, remember when you used to go to the show and all the ducks used to go along the thing and you go boom, 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 boom. Knock 'em over. So that's why I'd go the 20 horses the size of ducks.
No, there you go, mate. You nailed it. And like Laura said before, thanks to all our viewers tonight, and not just ones that watched it live, but people that are going to watch it back. Keep your questions coming. We without your guys' input, we don't know what you want to hear or see. So this is for you guys. So speak up, be heard. On that note, please remember, we learn every day. In the day we stop learning from each other, will be a sad day. Good night.
Thanks, Gary.
Thank you. Thank you very much.